The Saskatchewan Roughriders are 3.5-point home favorites over the BC Lions on Saturday for the West semifinal. BC will have Javon Katoy back in the starting lineup at slot back after he missed the final 3 games of the regular season due to an ankle injury, while Vernon Adams Jr. will start under center after showing out in the team's regular season finale. Saskatchewan, meanwhile, will have Reichwell Armstead back as he and AJ Ouellette share duties in the backfield, while Adam Auclair will return at weak side linebacker. These teams split their 2 regular season meetings, with the home side capturing both games, though Trevor Harris wasn't available for Saskatchewan's loss, and Vernon Adams Jr. was on the bench for BC's loss. This means that both franchise quarterbacks will face off against each other for the first time this year. That's exciting. Which team, JC, will advance to the West Final against Winnipeg?
There's a lot to like about Saskatchewan in this matchup, particularly playing at home at Mosaic Stadium, I think is a critical factor for them. But also, Trevor Harris, through the second half of the season since he's returned from injury, has been as good, if not better, than any quarterback in the CFL. And the ways that he excels in getting the ball out of his hands and being highly efficient also happen to be the weaknesses of the BC Lions defense, who allow the most passer efficiency in the CFL, the highest completion percentage. They'll let you beat them underneath and march the field because they don't have the ability to take it away right now. They've been focusing on turnovers. They're going to need those to pull the upset in this game. But right now, it's advantage Trevor Harris in that category. With all that said, I sat here a couple weeks ago before BC's game against Calgary and said that would be the last game that they would win all season because I had zero trust in this football team. I compared them to a dying animal at various points, made myself a lot of friends in the organization along the way, Mr. Hodge. But that was before I saw Vernon Adams Jr. come back under center. I think I was a little naive about how much of an effect that would have. Surely these guys must be playing the same way for Nathan Rourke as they would for VA. That clearly was not true because they responded in a huge way in that last regular season game. And I think this team is dramatically different with him under center than they were prior to that. And let's not forget, yes, Saskatchewan didn't have Harris in their first game of the season, but the Lions won that game convincingly with Vernon Adams Jr. throwing for well over 400 yards in that performance. He was electric. I think he can do the same thing again against a very good Saskatchewan defense. And with that motivation of playing for VA, as well as the added motivation of, I think this is a coaching staff that knows they need to win this game in order to guarantee their jobs going forward, I think the Lions can pull a sneaky upset against a Saskatchewan team that might get caught looking ahead.
Wow, taking the upset here and the points, of course, with the Lions. Interesting, JC. Very interesting. For me, I am rolling with the home side here. I do think it is going to be a close game for sure. The thing that I like about Saskatchewan, we'll start here. Obviously, the play of Trevor Harris. I mean, both quarterbacks in this would have been sensational. These two quarterbacks, by the way, when you do voting for All-Stars, or as they're called now, all CFL teams, you get 2 picks at some of these positions, a first choice and a second choice. These 2 quarterbacks were the 2 quarterbacks in the West who got my votes for that. I think they're both sensational, especially at this point of the season. I love how Trevor Harris takes pressure off of this offensive line in Saskatchewan. Rookie left tackle Trevor Reed has been solid all year, but across the board, I'm not sure this is the best pass blocking offensive line in the CFL. But Trevor Harris gets the ball out so quickly. He takes a lot of the pressure off that. I'm excited to see Reichwell Armstead and AJ Ouellette in this game. Knowing Mark Mueller and the way he's able to game plan, I'd love to see them on the field at the same time. Even now, should be noted the BC Lions tied for first in the CFL this season with only 4.7 yards allowed per rush. That is tied with the Red Blacks for number 1 in the CFL. So it'll be interesting to see if the Lions, despite some of the injuries they've had in their linebacking core, are able to handle that. But even if the Lions are able to take away the run game for a Prairie game, this is supposed to be, looking at the forecast, a good weather day in Regina. They've got a ton of weapons, obviously. The Canadians Keyshawn Johnson, who's been a sensational player for Saskatchewan this year, to dice up what I think has been a questionable at best secondary in BC this year. Then defensively, the Riders have got Malik Carney back. Micah Johnson has had a renaissance season. This defensive line has been good enough that this team is going into the playoffs with Anthony Lanier as a healthy scratch, a guy who was arguably the best defensive player in the CFL as recently as 2022. And then, of course, this defense led by Roland Milligan on the back end has done an incredible job of forcing takeaways. And that, to me, will be the story of this one. Can Vernon Adams Jr. avoid those takeaways? I think we all know Vernon Adams Jr. is going to throw for a touchdown or two. The question is he also going to give it away a couple of times? Because he threw 2 interceptions in the regular season finale, not necessarily both being his fault. One of them was very much on his receiver, but still, the Saskatchewan Roughriders this season, that has been their MO. They will eat you alive with turnovers. There's no margin for error there. They were unbelievably good at taking the ball away this season, plus 26 in the turnover ratio. The next best team was Montreal at plus 10. That is a wild advantage they've had. BC will have to protect the ball, and Vernon Adams Jr. will be the one who has to do it if they are to win this game.
I think the one element that doesn't get enough love going into this game or enough attention going into this game is everyone dismisses the Lions' ability to run the football because they haven't had it in the past, and they've particularly gone away from it in playoff games. But that's been a point of emphasis this year. And do not forget, William Stanback is the second leading rusher in the CFL behind Brady Oliveira. Even if it gets a little chilly come playoff time, I think the Lions have the ability to establish some of the run. They've changed their defense so they can stop the run, as you already mentioned, Hodge. I think Stanback could potentially have a bigger impact in this football game than both Raquel Armstead and AJ Ouellette for Saskatchewan. Frankly, Ouellette's been a little bit disappointing this year as he's battled injury. Armstead had that 200-yard game after coming over from Ottawa, but then got hurt. I think Stanback has been a far more consistent player, and if they need to, the Lions can settle down VA by handing the ball off to his buddy Will in the backfield and getting the hard yards.
It'll be a great game, JC, and you make an excellent point. Let's remember, BC has certainly changed their lineup from previous seasons, specifically to try to be geared more towards playoff football. And with the road to the Grey Cup, which, yes, is in Vancouver, however, running through the prairies in Regina and Winnipeg, we'll certainly get a chance to see if they were successful in doing that. Those are our picks for this week in the CFL playoffs. I've got Toronto to win, Ottawa to cover. I'm also taking Saskatchewan to win. I think I am going to take BC to cover for the record at 3.5 points. If that line is under a field goal, I'm all on the Riders to cover, but I do think it is a field goal, 3-point type game. JC is taking the points with BC, not only to cover, but also to win, and he is with me on the East semifinal, taking Toronto to win, Ottawa to cover.